Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something your heart already knows, but your mind keeps trying to deny. You are sitting there right now staring at a phone that hasn't lit up with his name in 3 days, 4 days, maybe a week, and every single minute that passes feels like a personal rejection of your very soul. You have sent the text, you have checked the read receipt, you have watched his social media activity, and you have asked yourself 1,000 times what you did wrong. But here is the truth that is going to sting before it sets you free. The silence you are hearing right now is not an absence of communication. That silence is speaking so loud it ought to be rattling the windows in your house. The problem is you have been trained to listen to the wrong things. You have been taught that your value is determined by how quickly a man responds to you. And I am here to tell you today that we are about to flip that entire script upside down and inside out until you see yourself clearly for the first time in a long time. I want to take you back to something that happened to me years ago when I was just starting out in comedy, long before the Suits, long before the television shows. There was a woman named Patricia who used to run the front desk at one of the clubs I worked at in Cleveland. Patricia was a beautiful woman, sharp as a tack, funny, could light up a room just by walking into it. But Patricia had one problem that was eating her alive from the inside. She was involved with a man who would disappear for days at a time. No call, no text, no nothing. And when he would finally come back around, he would have just enough sweet words to keep her hanging on for another few weeks. I watched this woman go from being this vibrant, confident, powerful presence to somebody who jumped every time her phone buzzed. She would stop mid-sentence, grab that phone so fast, and then her whole face would just fall when it wasn't him. I watched her lose 15 pounds she didn't have to lose. I watched her stop laughing. I watched her become a detective, an investigator, a woman who knew every single female commenter on his Instagram page by name. And one night after a show, I sat down with her and I said, "Patricia, let me ask you something. When he goes silent, what is the very first thing you do?" She looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "I try to figure out what I did wrong. I replay every conversation. I go through every text I sent. I try to find the moment where I messed it all up." And I told her what I am about to tell you right now. That right there is the trap. That is the cage. And the door is wide open, but you will never walk out of it as long as you believe you are the one holding the keys to his behavior. You see, when a man goes silent, the natural instinct for so many women is to fill that silence with self-blame. You start writing a story in your head about how you must have said the wrong thing, you must have been too much, you must have asked for too much, you must have shown too much emotion, too much interest, too much love. And let me tell you something that you need to hear down in the deepest part of your spirit. A man who values you does not need you to be perfect to stay. A man who values you does not need you to be smaller, quieter, less expressive, less human in order to give you basic communication. Silence from a man is not a puzzle for you to solve. It is information for you to receive, and the information is this. He is showing you exactly where you stand on his priority list. And your job right now is not to move yourself up on that list. Your job is to believe the list when you see it. Now, I know some of you are sitting there thinking, but Steve, maybe he is going through something. Maybe he is stressed. Maybe he is overwhelmed with work. Maybe he is afraid of his feelings because they are so strong for me. Ladies, I need you to hear me with the love of a big brother, an uncle, a father. I have been a man for a lot of years. I have been stressed. I have been overwhelmed. I have been scared of my own feelings. And I am telling you right now, there is not a single one of those emotions that has ever made me incapable of sending a text message. It takes 6 seconds to type, I am going through something. Give me a few days. It takes four seconds to type, I am thinking about you. Just need some space to sort things out. The man who cannot find 6 seconds for you in 72 hours is not overwhelmed. He is making a choice. And the choice is to leave you in emotional limbo because he knows you will still be there when he decides to come back around. He knows because you have trained him to know it. Every time he disappeared and came back to find you waiting with open arms and no consequences, he learned a lesson. He learned that your time is not valuable. He learned that your peace is not important. He learned that he can treat you however he wants, and you will accept it as long as he eventually says something sweet. Now, I want you to understand something crucial about the way a man's mind operates, and this is going to help you stop personalizing his silence as if it is a verdict on your worth. A man processes emotions very differently than a woman does. When you are hurting, when you are confused, when you are feeling disconnected, your instinct is to reach out, to talk, to connect, to bridge the gap. That is a beautiful thing. That is a strength, not a weakness. But a man, when he is dealing with something internally, his first instinct is often to retreat. He goes into what I call his cave. He pulls back, he gets quiet, he goes inward, and in a healthy relationship with a mature man, he will eventually come out of that cave and communicate what was going on. But here is the distinction you have got to make. There is a massive difference between a man who is temporarily retreating to process something and a man who is using silence as a weapon, as a tool of control, as a way to keep you anxious and insecure and chasing him. The first man will still show you, even in his quiet season, that you matter. He will send a simple message. He will not leave you wondering if the relationship even still exists. The second man wants you wondering. He wants you checking your phone. He wants you losing sleep because your anxiety is proof to his ego that he has power over you. I remember a young lady came up to me after one of my shows in Atlanta, tears streaming down her face, and she said, Steve, my man hasn't spoken to me in 11 days, 11 whole days. And I asked her, I said, what happened right before he stopped speaking to you? She thought about it for a moment and she said, I asked him if we could finally talk about where this relationship was going. I asked him what we were doing here after 2 years, and I told her what I'm going to tell you right now. His silence is your answer. That man did not go silent because he was confused about his feelings. He went silent because your question demanded a level of honesty and commitment that he is either unwilling or unable to provide. And instead of having the courage to say, I cannot give you what you are asking for, he simply disappeared. He took the coward's exit. He left you standing there, holding all the emotional weight while he slipped out the back door without making a sound. And you sitting there blaming yourself for asking a perfectly reasonable question is like a woman blaming herself for noticing the house is on fire. The fire was already burning. All you did was open your eyes and speak the truth. This is where we have got to talk about the strategy of what you actually do when he goes silent. Because I am not just here to tell you what is wrong. I am here to give you a roadmap out of this pain. The very first thing you do, and I mean this with every fiber of my being, is absolutely nothing. You do not text him again. You do not call him. You do not send him a long paragraph explaining your feelings. You do not ask his friends if he is okay. You do not post a cryptic quote on your social media hoping he will see it and feel guilty. You do not post a picture looking amazing just to make him jealous. All of that is still you playing his game. All of that is still you sending energy toward a man who has made the conscious decision to withhold his energy from you. You cannot negotiate your way into a man's genuine desire to talk to you. You cannot argue your way into his respect. You cannot explain your way into his attention. These things are either freely given or they are worthless when you have to beg for them. What you do instead is something so powerful that it will feel completely wrong at first because you have been conditioned to do the opposite. You take your hands off the situation completely. You stop trying to control the outcome. You stop trying to figure out what is going on inside his head, and you redirect all of that incredible mental energy back toward your own life. And I know that sounds like the kind of advice people give you that feels impossible when your heart is breaking. I know you are sitting there thinking, Steve, I cannot just focus on myself. I love him. I cannot just pretend I do not care. And I am not asking you to pretend you do not care. I am not asking you to be cold. I am not asking you to play games. What I am asking you to do is to recognize that the most attractive quality in any human being is a person who has a full, vibrant, complete life that does not collapse into rubble just because one person stops giving them attention. A woman who can still laugh with her friends when he has not texted back. A woman who can still show up at her job and perform with excellence. A woman who can still pour into her dreams, her goals, her health, her peace, regardless of what a man is or is not doing. That woman is magnetic. That woman is powerful. That woman does not chase. She attracts. And let me tell you what happens when you genuinely, authentically shift your focus back to yourself. One of two things will occur, and both of them are wins for you. The first possibility is that this man, sensing that his silence no longer has the power to disrupt your entire life, will come back around. He will text you. He will reach out. Not because you manipulated him into it, not because you played some game, but because you became the one thing he never expected you to become. A woman who is fine either way. A woman whose happiness is not dependent on his validation. And when he does reach out, you will be in a completely different position emotionally. You will not respond from desperation. You will not immediately reward his 3-day absence with your immediate attention. You will be able to evaluate calmly whether this man deserves any more access to your life. The second possibility, and in many cases, this is actually the greater blessing, is that he does not come back. And in that outcome, you have not lost a man who loved you. You have simply been freed from a man who was never capable of giving you what you deserved in the first place. You have been handed your freedom, and all it cost you was the illusion that he was ever truly yours. Now let's go deeper into something that is going to be uncomfortable to hear, but it is the kind of truth that sets people free. I want you to ask yourself this question, and I want you to be brutally honest. Why are you so afraid of his silence? What is it about a man not responding to you that sends you into a spiral of panic, anxiety, and self-doubt? Because if you trace that fear all the way back to its root, you are going to find something that has very little to do with him and everything to do with a story you have been telling yourself for years. You have attached your worth to his response. You have decided somewhere along the way that if he chooses you, you are valuable. If he ignores you, you are worthless. And that is a power you have handed over to another human being that no human being should ever have over you. I want to tell you about my mother. My mother was a strong woman, a woman of deep faith, a woman who worked hard every single day of her life. And I remember watching her interact with my father and later in life with other men. And one thing she never did, not one time, was beg for a man's attention. Not because she did not care, not because she did not love deeply, but because she understood a principle that I want to plant into your spirit right now. A woman who knows her worth does not chase. She does not panic. She does not fall apart. She understands that the right man will never put her in a position where she has to wonder if she matters to him. And if a man does put her in that position, he has already disqualified himself from her life. It is not about being hard. It is not about being bitter. It is about being so rooted in your own value that you simply do not have the time or the emotional bandwidth to convince someone else of it. You see, the problem with chasing a silent man is not just that it does not work. The problem is what it does to your own soul in the process. Every time you send that double text, every time you write out a paragraph explaining your feelings to someone who has not even acknowledged your last 3 messages, every time you refresh your phone hoping to see his name, you are chipping away at your own self-respect. You are reinforcing a belief that your needs are secondary. You are telling yourself, without even realizing it, that you deserve to be ignored. And the scariest part is that you start to get comfortable there. You start to think that this is just how love feels. This anxiety, this uncertainty, this constant state of waiting. You mistake the drama for passion. You mistake the pain for depth. And I am here to tell you that real love, the kind of love that God intends for you, the kind of love that can actually sustain a lifetime, does not feel like panic. It does not feel like confusion. It feels like peace. It feels like safety. It feels like somebody who wants to talk to you just as much as you want to talk to them. Now, I already know what some of you are thinking. You are thinking about the good times. You are thinking about how amazing he is when he is actually present, how he makes you laugh, how he understands you in a way nobody else does, how when things are good between you, they are really good. And you are using those memories as proof that this relationship is worth fighting for. But let me reframe something for you. If I gave you the most delicious sandwich you have ever tasted in your entire life, but I told you that sandwich also had just a little bit of poison in it, just a small amount, barely detectable, would you eat that sandwich? Of course you would not, because the poison ruins the whole thing. The good ingredients do not cancel out the poison. The poison cancels out the good ingredients, and his silence, his disappearances, his emotional withdrawal, that is the poison in your relationship sandwich. It does not matter how good the rest of it tastes. That poison is still going to make you sick. It is still going to damage you over time. And the longer you keep eating that sandwich, the harder it is going to be to remember what a healthy meal even tastes like. This is the part where you have to make a decision. And I am not talking about a decision regarding him. I am talking about a decision regarding you. Are you going to keep living in this cycle where your emotional state is determined entirely by whether or not he decides to text you back? Are you going to keep handing him the remote control to your happiness and letting him change the channel whenever he feels like it? Or are you going to take the remote control back? Are you going to look in the mirror and say to yourself, I am too valuable for this. My peace is too precious for this. My time is too limited for this. My heart deserves someone who does not need 3 days to figure out if I am worth a phone call. The beautiful thing about this moment, this painful, confusing, frustrating moment you are in right now, is that it is also an invitation. It is an invitation to grow. It is an invitation to heal something inside yourself that you may not have even known was broken. Because the woman who is completely devastated by a man's silence is often a woman who never learned that she is complete all by herself. She never learned that she is not a half looking for another half, but a whole person looking for another whole person. And until you learn that, until you truly believe in the deepest part of your soul that you are already enough without his validation, you will keep attracting the same kind of man in different bodies. The names will change, the faces will change, but the dynamic will stay exactly the same, because you are not yet the woman who can walk away from silence. You are still the woman who begs silence to speak. Here is the part where we talk about what happens when he finally does text you, because he will. They almost always do eventually. He is going to send you a message, and I can almost write the script for you right now. It is going to be casual. It is going to be nonchalant. It is going to pretend that the last 3 days or 5 days or 2 weeks of silence never even happened. He is going to say something like, hey, stranger, or hope you are doing good, or just checking on you as if he is doing you a favor, as if he is some generous king who finally remembered that you exist in the kingdom. And the reason he does it that way is because he is testing you. He is seeing if the door is still open. He is checking to see if he can still waltz right back in without having to explain himself, without having to apologize, without having to acknowledge the pain he caused you. He is checking to see if you have grown or if you are the exact same woman he left on read 4 days ago. This moment right here, this seemingly small moment when that text finally comes through, is one of the most important moments in this entire process. Because how you respond, or whether you respond at all, is going to teach him everything he needs to know about how he can treat you moving forward. If you text back immediately, if you respond with excitement, if you pretend everything is fine, if you do not address what just happened, you have just told him loud and clear that you will tolerate being ignored. Not only that, you have told him that he can disappear whenever he wants and come back to the exact same level of access and affection as if he had never left. You have set the price for your attention, and the price is zero. He did not have to pay anything. He did not have to earn his way back. He just walked through a door that you left wide open. Now I am not telling you to be rude. I am not telling you to play games. I am not telling you to ignore him just to get revenge or to make him suffer. That is not what this is about. What this is about is you finally valuing yourself enough to require accountability. What this is about is you understanding that love without standards is not love, it is self-abandonment. So when that text comes through, you do not jump, you do not celebrate, you do not immediately type back with butterflies in your stomach. You take a breath. You put the phone down for a little while. You remind yourself that your life was still moving while he was silent. You had your own thoughts, your own responsibilities, your own peace, your own joy, and you do not respond until you are in a calm, grounded, clear state of mind. And when you do respond, you do not pick up the conversation as if nothing happened. You ask the question. You say, I noticed you were quiet for several days. What was that about? And watch what he does with that question, because his answer is going to tell you everything you need to know. A mature man who genuinely cares about you will acknowledge it. He will apologize. He will offer an explanation without being defensive. He will show you that he understands why it hurt you. A man who is just playing with you will deflect. He will say you are overthinking. He will turn it around on you and make you feel crazy for even bringing it up. He will say it was not a big deal. And that response right there is your closure. That response is your sign that this man does not have the emotional capacity to be what you need. I want to pause here and speak directly to the woman who knows deep down that she needs to walk away but does not know if she has the strength to do it. I want to speak to the woman who has invested years into this man, who has built a whole life around him, who cannot imagine a future without him in it. I know that fear. I know that feeling like you are standing on the edge of a cliff and you cannot see what is at the bottom. But I need you to understand something. Staying in a situation that is draining your spirit is more expensive than any goodbye could ever be. The years you have already spent are not a reason to stay. They are the tuition you paid to learn this lesson. Do not keep paying tuition for a class you have already passed. And what you are going to find on the other side of that goodbye, after the grief, after the tears, after the withdrawal, is a version of yourself you forgot existed. A woman who does not wake up anxious checking her phone. A woman who does not spend her days trying to decode the hidden meaning behind 3-word responses. A woman who has so much room in her heart now that she is not spending all her energy trying to fix a man who does not want to be fixed. That woman is waiting for you. She has been waiting for you for a long time. And the only thing standing between you and her is the decision to finally let go of what is hurting you. But I also want to speak to the woman who is not ready to walk away yet. The woman who still believes there is something worth saving. I see you too. And if you are going to stay, then stay differently. Stay with boundaries. Stay with standards. Stay with a voice that speaks up instead of swallowing your feelings to keep the peace. Stay as a woman who requires respect, not as a woman who is just grateful for whatever crumbs he decides to throw. Because if this relationship is going to have any chance of becoming healthy, the dynamic has to shift completely. And that shift starts with you deciding that you are no longer available for inconsistency. You are no longer available for emotional breadcrumbing. You are no longer available to be an option when he has been your priority. He will either rise to meet those standards or he will remove himself from your life. Either outcome is better than the limbo you have been living in. And here is the final thing I want to plant in your heart before we wrap this up. The silence you are experiencing right now, the silence that has been causing you so much pain, is not the end of your story. It is not proof that you are unlovable. It is not evidence that you are too much. That silence is simply a mirror. It is showing you where you have been placing your value. It is showing you where you have been abandoning yourself in the hopes that someone else would pick you up. And once you see it clearly, once you stop fighting against it and start learning from it, that silence actually becomes a gift. It becomes the thing that woke you up. It becomes the thing that led you back to yourself. The question is not whether he will text you first. The question is whether you will have grown so much in the meantime that you no longer need his text to feel like you matter. So let me leave you with this, and I want you to carry it with you long after this video ends. Ladies, I have sat across from thousands of people over the years. I have heard stories of heartbreak, stories of betrayal, stories of love lost and love found. And if there is one thing I have learned, one truth that rises above all the noise, it is this: the love you are truly looking for will never require you to audition for it. You will never have to prove your worth to the person who is meant to love you. You will never have to shrink yourself down to a more convenient size. You will never have to accept silence as a form of communication. The right love, the real love, the love that is designed for you will feel like coming home to a place you have never been. It will feel like peace. It will feel like safety. It will feel like somebody who wakes up every single day grateful that you exist and is not afraid to show you. And I know that right now, in this moment, that might sound like a fantasy. I know your heart is hurting. I know you are replaying everything in your mind, wondering if you made a mistake, wondering if you could have been different, wondering if you could have been better, wondering if you could have been enough to make him stay. But let me tell you what enough looks like. Enough is a woman who knows her own value so deeply that she no longer negotiates it. Enough is a woman who understands that a man's inability to see her worth is not a reflection of her worth. It is a reflection of his vision. Enough is a woman who can stand in the silence without falling apart because she has filled that silence with her own strength, her own purpose, her own joy, her own life. You see, the goal was never to get him to text you first. I want you to really hear that. The goal was never about making him miss you, making him regret losing you, making him realize what he had. The goal was for you to realize what you have. The goal was for you to wake up and see that you have been giving premium access to your heart, to your time, to your energy, to your beautiful mind, to someone who was not even paying the basic cost of admission. The goal was for you to fall back in love with your own life, to fall back in love with your own dreams, to remember the woman you were before you started pouring every ounce of yourself into a relationship that only poured back into you when it was convenient. And here is the beautiful poetic truth that I want to leave burning in your soul. When you finally become the woman who is no longer desperate for his text, when you finally become the woman who has built a life so fulfilling that a man's silence no longer destroys you, when you finally become the woman who knows she is the prize, not the pursuer, that is when everything shifts. That is when the right kind of love finds you. Maybe it is a transformed version of him, a man who finally grew up and realized what he was about to lose. Or maybe, and more likely, it is someone entirely new. Someone who has been praying for a woman exactly like you. Someone who is not afraid of communication, who is not afraid of commitment, who is not afraid of showing you every single day that you matter. Someone who will make you look back on this season of silence and thank God that it happened, because it cleared the path for something so much greater than you could have ever imagined. But that future, that beautiful future that is waiting for you, it begins with a choice you make right now, today. Not tomorrow, not next week, not after you give him one more chance, right now. The choice to stop waiting by the phone. The choice to stop building your emotional house on someone else's land. The choice to look in the mirror and say, I deserve a love that shows up. I deserve a love that speaks. I deserve a love that does not leave me wondering, and I am not going to settle for anything less ever again. The silence taught you something invaluable if you let it. It taught you what you are made of. It taught you what you have been tolerating. It taught you that you are far stronger than you ever gave yourself credit for. Do not waste that lesson. Do not let him come back around with a few sweet words and undo the growth you have fought for in the dark. Take the lesson, keep the growth. Release the man if he cannot meet you where you stand, and walk forward into the life that is waiting for you, not as a woman who is hoping to be chosen, but as a woman who has finally chosen herself. That is the message. That is the truth. And I hope you receive it with the love it was delivered in. Now go be the woman you were always meant to be.